Okay, thank you everyone for coming back. Well, most of you, some of you at least. So now we have a really cool session. I'm a huge fan of automation because it means I need to do less work and I can focus on that creative, intelligent, innovative stuff. And Damon Edwards is, again, another luminary in our industry, a big part of the DevOps movement, now turning his eye to automation and orchestration. And he's going to give us a talk now about the journey to self-service. Welcome, Damon.
Yeah. Got to get a hold of the microphone. Thank you. Thank you. I feel like I've already won. So I'm just going to tell you guys a story. All right, the whole talk's going to be a story. Hopefully you enjoy it. So kick back, relax, drink your coffee. So this is Ops Hero, right? Let's meet Ops Hero, right? Had 8 years of experience. Been at this a while. The person that people turn to, you know, they when the thing needs to get done, you know you're going to call Ops Hero. And, you know, Ops Hero is the last line of defense when things go wrong, right? When, you know, it's always the last person to get called, often the first person to get called, the person who gets called, period. And, you know, this is the one that knows how things actually work, how we actually get things done around here. And as a kick-ass scripter, right? You know, everyone's copying Ops Hero scripts and wanting to be part of that fun. But all is not well with our Ops Hero. A lot of despair, you know. And so Ops Hero's old mentor pays Ops Hero a visit. And Ops Hero's like, wow, you look great. You look like you're tanned. You look rested. You know, you still working? What's going on? And he said, well, yeah, I am. I'm working at a new company. He says, but you look sad. You look tired. What's going on, my friend? And Ops Hero says, well, you know, life and operations just keeps getting more difficult. Right? And the old mentor said, well, really? It's getting worse than it was before? That's hard to believe. It's like, yeah, you know, first it's just the interruptions, right? You know, I've got all this work that's due yesterday, all this work that's due tomorrow. I'm trying to get it done, but it's just this steady avalanche of just, you know, interruptions, whether it's phone calls or tickets or alarms going off. It's just always raining on my head. And then, you know, always the boss shows up and says, hey, you know, I'm going to need to do this, we need to do that, and changes my priorities at the last minute. And then I got these colleagues, and they're always like, you know, hey, do you know about this? Do you know about that? And it constantly bothering me. Trying to get help from me. And then customers. Everything's always customer complaints. You know, this service is slow, that service is not responding, or doesn't work on my mobile device. It's nonstop raining interruptions on my head. And then the waiting, right? It feels like I'm always waiting on others, right? I'm filling out a ticket and waiting for something to happen. Then I got to go bug somebody to go tell somebody else to do it, to tell them to go do it. And I get told my thing's not a high enough priority. My ticket gets closed without being done. It's a nightmare, right? And then on top of that, or others are always waiting on me, right? Add those to more interruptions. Everyone's upset because they got a big pile of things in my queue and it's not getting done. And then don't even get me started with the incidents, right? It's just nonstop around here, right? It's constantly, the alarm bells are going off. What changed? The site's slow. Oh, now it's down, right? Nobody touched anything else. But then, you know, somebody does touch something. Oh, no, that made it worse, right? And then, of course, it's constantly, you know, people knocking on our doors. Anybody working on this? Do you guys care, right? And this is fear. It's like at any moment, the roof's going to collapse on us, right? It's like, you know, this could all go wrong. We keep putting these fixes in place, and they always feel shaky, right? It just feels like it's all going to come tumbling down, right? And then there's this constant nag. Like every time that alert goes off, is this it? Is this the big one that's going to get us all fired, right? We're all going to go out of business. And, you know, we're drowning all this technical debt. And then it's like, it's just slog, right? I mean, I just dive into production, right? This is going to hurt. I know what's going to hurt. Put a bunch of, you know, kind of, you know, baling wire and spitballs and, you know, duct tape, get stuff working again. And then, of course, someone's then bugging me about, where's your ticket? Do you have a ticket? I mean, I'm trying to save them, and you're telling me you got to give them a ticket. And it's the same rigmarole as last week and the week before and the week before and the week before. And, you know, there's like whole days to these emergencies. Remember all these things I've been trying to do, all this project work, right? And then all I hear about later is, why couldn't we fix this quicker? You know, it's just, come on. It's sorry I couldn't swim through the mud fast enough for you, right? You know, and our Ops Hero is like, I'm frustrated, I'm tired. You know, isn't there a way to work smarter, right? Not harder, right? We're working hard as we can. We can't work any harder. We got to work smarter. I don't know what to do. I feel like I'm going to go open a stereo shop or something instead, right? And the mentor says, you know, hey, in my new company, we found a better way. I think our operations is run a lot more sanely and humanely. And we started in that despair, but we found a way through it. So then, first we figured out what was getting in the way, right? So bear with me for a minute here. We're going to get a little bit abstract, right? But this is what we started to think about. First of all, realize that our organization was a whole bunch of silos, right? And silos aren't just teams. Silos are really discovered as a way of working, right? So, traditionally, like you're in a small team or group or by yourself, you got a backlog that's set by one manager with one set of priorities. You got that context you're working in. You got one set of tools. You're kind of, in the zone, and as a small group, you're kind of all focused on the same things. But the problem is nothing lives in isolation, especially in enterprise operations. You always need something from somebody else, or somebody needs something from you. And that's where things really start to go wrong, right? Because everyone's working in their own context with their own processes, their own tooling, their own capacity issues, right? We only have so many DBAs or so many firewall engineers. People start to isolate themselves, start to say, I've got my little context, I'm just going to focus on optimizing that. And then everyone's trying to optimize their context, and we get all these disconnects, right? Things don't really match up. And when things go wrong, because of disconnects, we turn inward more. We start to focus more on ourselves. And I'm focused. It says it here. I'm the firewall engineer. I'm going to be the best firewall rule changer west of the Mississippi. Forget everybody else. So, and then we've what do we do about these queues? Well, we discovered that these silo disconnects. We use everyone's favorite tool, which is the ticket queue. Right? We just drop a ticket queue anywhere we need one of these handoffs, and we all realized how well that works, right? You put a ticket in the queue, and you wait until you get a project manager to go bug somebody to do something about it, and then they do it, and they get back to you. Do you still need this? Yes, I needed it yesterday. They do something, you get it back. It's not quite right. You go around and around and around, right? So it's a very expensive way to work, and it just felt bad, right? As Jason said earlier today, all these queues, nothing's getting done. Everyone's working hard on these queues, nothing's getting done. And it turned out that we weren't the only ones that realized that queues are expensive. You look in the manufacturing industry, you look in the physical product world, you look even in the agile side of the world, people realize that queues are actually very expensive. There's a whole a discipline in mathematics called queuing theory that focuses just on this. And this is from this great book, Don Reinertson, his Principles of Product Development Flow, really lays out why queues are expensive, that queues cause longer cycle times, right? Put something in a queue, it just takes longer. Increase risk. The longer things take, the more of the risk of that game of telephone, the disconnect, the higher we're going to have, more problems we're going to have. Slower feedback loops, right, is what makes more risk. More variability, right, a lot of one-offs, a lot of things we keep doing, and people are parachuting in and doing one at a time. More overhead. We've got to manage all these things, right? Set all the priorities and make sure all the queues are being used. And lower quality because of slow feedback loops, right? And also, interesting enough, low motivation. That when you finish something and you put it into a queue and you don't see it again for a while, it really kind of intrinsically demotivates you to actually feel good about your work or to do more of your work. So a lot of people have studied this and said queues are really expensive, but what do? We keep dropping these ticket queues all over our organization and think that it's free. It's some panacea, right? Just start a new queue. And these queues are encouraging these we call snowflakes, right? Which is people are working in these silos. They're working their disconnected ways. They get a message. They got a parachute in. They're going to go like the SWAT team, go help somebody, and then they're going to move on to the next ticket, move on to the next ticket, and they leave a lot of these one-offs behind. And a snowflake is like their physical snowflake. It could be technically perfect. That thing could be, a thing of beauty, but it's a little bit different than the next one, and the next one, and the next one, and that just causes all kinds of problems, right? It's unexpected conditions people don't see. It can undermine your automation, right? The only thing worse than automation that doesn't work is automation that's just a little bit off, right? So snowflakes are a bad thing, but these ticket queues are like giant snowblowers, right? All they're doing is creating snowflakes in our organization. So we had to get rid of these. We realized the queues were just working against us, right? And then we also, thanks to our friends at Google, came to this new word that really resonated with us called Toil, right? And Toil, I'll just use their definition. It's the kind of work tied to running a production service that needs to be manual, repetitive, tends to be manual, repetitive, automatable, tactical, devoid of enduring value. I think this is like the huge phrase, devoid of enduring value, and scales linearly as the service grows. We go to 1 billion users, we're going to have to add that many number of more tasks of this type. And the idea is that Toil is not adding value to the company. It's not adding enduring value. Maybe we have to do it to just keep the site alive or just to service the current customers, but we want to get away from it, right? We want to do more engineering work, right? Which is using human creativity to build enduring value for our company. And just to compare it, it's like the toil is all the things that lack enduring value. It's just one-offs we have to do. We're not building something for the company. Engineering work builds enduring value. Toil tends to be rote and repetitive. Engineering work tends to be creative, iterative, things that computers can't do, things that you need the human mind to do. I think as Jason said earlier about using technology to elevate the human, or something to that, to that effect. Toil is very tactical, it's in the moment. Engineering work is strategic. Toil increases with scale. Engineering work enables scaling. Toil can and should be automated. Computers can do it. Engineering work requires human creativity. And the problem is that the mentor here is telling us about finding all this toil was that excess toil prevents us from getting to the engineering work to fix our company. When we have enough time for the engineering work, we can do two things with it. One, we can use it to reduce that toil, right? Actually buy back and steal back more time for ourselves. And then two, we use it for actually improving the business. And when you have excessive toil, it crowds out all the capacity to do engineering work, and you essentially hit this engineering bankruptcy, right? Where you have no capacity to reduce the toil, so you're stuck, right? You can't get out of this spiral, and definitely nothing's going on fixing the business. We have just our classic, running on the hamster wheel that happens in so many operations organizations. So, back to our buddies in the bar. The ops hero says, "Yeah, well, what did you guys do about all that? That makes sense." And it said, well, first thing it is we started talking to our executives about a reorganization, right? We said, well, let's get rid of the silos. Instead of having all these handoff points, let's do a big reorg. Let's draw from this DevOps idea, right? Let's do these cross-functional teams where the key is to get rid of these handoffs. So let's put dev and ops and QA together, and everybody will work together in product teams. And the idea is not everybody does everything. It's more of the idea that that we have this horizontal shared responsibility across all the functions. So big reorg, right? Wow, did you actually get that done? No, of course not, right? We got shot down immediately. That was terrible. That went nowhere. But Dev and QA, they got to change. They got to go to DevOps conferences. It was awesome, right? They look totally different, new and fresh. They got new open plan offices to work in. But ops, we're still ops, and that's about it. So how did you get rid of the interruptions and the excessive toil, right? Well, in operations, we took it upon ourselves to look at all the handoffs and ticket queues that we could find and apply this self-service operations mentality to wherever we could, right? So the idea being, how can we take these things that normally people have to fill out a ticket for, they have to go to a special group for, some people have to do something for you, and turn them into these pull-based self-service capabilities, right? That are bidirectional, meaning that not only can somebody, hit a button and get something that they need, but they can also define what those buttons are, right? So it's a difference between like an old managed service, which is like, oh, I could hit a web request to get a new VM that would something happen behind me, and like AWS or EC2, right? Where I can actually define what that button does when I go and hit it. What am I going to get on the other side? Key part of this, it's on demand. They could use it anytime they want. And it's got all the security and guardrails built into it, right? That's the design pattern. That's the idea that we want to apply. And we want to do this for a lot of here, deployments common, but more for the non-deployment oriented things as well. Like, so restarts, health checks, all the operational things you have to do kind of day in, day out. So our officer says, oh, this is great. I'm going to give this a try, right? This is going to be fantastic. I'm really excited. I'm kind of feeling invigorated here. You're the best. Cheers, right? And then a few months later, right, they meet up again, and it's like, oh, what's troubling you, my friend? I see the long face and the bags under the eyes. They're back, right? It's like, well, the path to self-service is not really going well, right? So first, we're a great engineering company. We're a proud engineering company, and we heard that Netflix did it, so we're going to build all of our own tools, right? We're going to build this big project from scratch, and it was a lot harder than we thought. And people started to get upset, kind of waiting, when's Project Titan going to be done? When's this going to happen? Eventually, everybody got tired, right? Shiny object squirrels, and everybody kind of went off and lost their enthusiasm for it, and our project just sort of languished, not a lot of enthusiasm. And then there's all the arguments, right, about the languages, right? It's the chef crowd versus the puppet crowd. No, it's Ansible. Hey, we actually only really know how to do bash scripts. What about our Blade Logic? What about our PowerShell, right? We only do have Windows in this team. So in the enterprise, it was this big battle over whose automation language is going to win, right? And then let's not forget, security and compliance thought we were nuts. They laughed us out of the room. We told them we wanted to give everybody access to do their own operations, right? And the mentor said, well, hey, wait a minute. Actually, that's okay. We went through the same growing pains in my company. And the first problem I think I spotted here is you try to make it a big bang project, this big engineering project that's supposed to take over, for the entire organization, the one true way to automate things, right? And the reality is we found success with a continuous improvement approach, right? Small wins, right? That we can empower people, team to team, get them building along with the momentum, learn as we go as an organization. And we decided that as a team, we were going to opportunistically focus on certain anti-patterns, teaching people to spot anti-patterns and replace them with this self-service operations wherever we can go. Like some of the ones we looked at is the classic do it again, again and again and again, right? That it's like, I need X, okay, I did it. I need X, I did it. Okay, I need X, I did it. And guess what's happening, right? It's like all the other work that we're supposed to be doing is just, burning behind us, right? By applying the self-service just to that, just say, hey, fine, that thing you always ask me to do, just go through the ticket queue and find out what are the most common types of requests and create the automation for that. That allowed us to basically ignore all those requests or just keep an eye on it. And, we can focus on other work. So that was design pattern one. Another favorite one was this caused so many problems, which is I'm an expert, I don't read a wiki, right? Which is, hey, something happened, we're moving fast, the service has changed, you have to use this flag, otherwise some bad thing's gonna happen, or you gotta pause the monitoring first, please, because you keep waking us up every time you do a restart. And then later, the expert comes along. You think the expert reads the wiki every time they do a service restart? Of course not, right? So they just run the same command with the old flags and alarms go off and, bad things happen and this happens over and over again, right? It's hard to tell people you must go read the docs before you do something very, very simple. So by working with this self-service ideas, we put it on upon those other folks to update the job. Keep that job updated with the procedures that they need to see happen. Later, it's 3 in the morning, the expert rolls out of bed, they just run the restart command, and the right thing happens. Another favorite one, I could fix it, but I can't get to it, right? Maybe it's got some customer data in that environment, or it's a different team, or whatever it might be. But it's always that, we're impeding people's progress to get things done. They now have to wait for something to happen. They got to raise a ticket for somebody else, which puts some, context switching onto them, and it just causes ripple effects across the organization. So again, self-service was all about, letting people do things like letting developers actually do restarts in production, or letting people do other, business analysts do catalog updates, or things like that they could do themselves if we can just give them the button to do it, and they don't have to wait for somebody else to do it. And the dog pile, right? So this is the one that's fun, like, you get on the bridge call and there's a problem and it's like, oh, I think it's server X, right? And you log into server X and you run top and the first 10 entries are your other 10 colleagues running top, right, at the same time. So it's, that dog pile effect where people are poking and prodding things while they're trying to figure out what's going on. By using the self-service, it was a way for us to kind of have a standard commands. Everybody can watch the self-service and see what's happening, right? And as far as the automation language wars, we decided to rethink it, right? And the real thing was, why not support all languages and tools, right? There's a value to standardization, but not early standardization. Let's standardize late once we've kind of decided things. Let's get people moving, get people going. And the idea is just to let people use the tools they already have. Start where we are. Meet people in their reality, right? On reality's terms, not where we would want to be. And the idea is to work with all of our existing tools and scripts. So if they're using Bash over there and Ansible over there and PowerShell over there, that's fine, right? We should be able to accept all of those things. And the self-service platform should worry about the workflow, right? The access control, the error handling, the notifications, option handling, how do we pass options between all these jobs, resource model, right? How do I know where everything is? And having all the right interfaces. I need a GUI, I need an API, I need a CLI, I need scheduling, I got to schedule a lot of these tasks, right? And surprisingly, this guy actually chose Rundeck. Shocker to me, but there's many ways to do this, but it's a valid thing to look at. So, and then the next step was, well, once they got people just doing that, just using the simple tools, dropping in the scripts they already have, looking for the design patterns and creating these little self-service, then the team can harness that excitement and start building a more formalized platform, right? Trying to combine their self-service automation tools with their observability and their monitoring tools, so you have the kind of view and the do, the operational procedure and the health kind of together, and building self-service together around both of those. So sort of like the cockpit idea, right? You can't fly a plane without instruments in a window, and you can't fly a plane with just instruments in a window, right? And worrying about, and this way, the engineers get visibility and they get some, controlled self-service. The ops support gets the procedures that they need. Security and operations can make sure that, my secrets, the identity is taken care of. The audit logs are all there, the access policy. Start to make it a formalized platform that we can share. Huge is, but we have to embrace the whole DevOps movement, right? We can't tell people, oh, well, we'll create these things for you. They, basically build out your SDLC to deliver these jobs, right? So let delivery teams create their own self-service jobs, work it through their SDLC, promote it to production, let operations and security agree, yes, this is good, let's go ahead and run these things. And then let's get the rest of the team in the party, right? Let's plug in our ticket systems where we have to for approval or for other type of things, or kind of the new artifact or container management systems. Basically, all the information systems we have out there, pull them into this platform, give people a real platform to work for. And about your compliance and security fears, right? Well, the reality is once you show, they're going to freak out at first to say you're going to give people access to do what? But if you show them, hey, we're actually going to be more in control, right? We're going to raise our security posture. And how we're going to do it is, number one, we're going to be able to tell them without any extra audit, preparation, who reviewed the job, who ran the job, when did they run it, where did they run it, right? What was the approval that approved that job? Who created that job? Where did it come from? Who created the policy that we used around it? So we're able to actually raise our security posture and show this as a compliance platform, a compliance tool, when the reality is it's really a tool for us to make our lives less miserable. So our ops hero says, I think I now see a path forward. I'm going to go give this a try, right? Cheers. A few months later, right? Hey, wow, you sure look a lot happier. What's going on, right? We made some great progress. This has been a smashing success, right? I'm loving working in ops again, right? First, we're calling it self-service, right? It's flourishing because we're giving the people self-service capabilities to create self-service, and people are loving it, and they're cleaning up, getting rid of toil all over the place. It's fantastic. We're learning quickly. We're improving our tooling. And everyone is starting to notice the improvement, right? We got fewer interruptions, less waiting, right? We're getting more done, right? The bosses care. And life's pretty good. First of all, my work is way more satisfying, right? We're starting to get rid of all that. Every day, it's less toil that we have to deal with, get to work on more engineering work. It's far more interesting. My stature amongst my colleagues is growing, right? I don't have to pay for a beer anymore. It's really great. And by the way, I'm getting a raise, right? Life is good. And that's fantastic, right? You're working smarter, not harder. You're making life better for your colleagues. This is fantastic. I'm really proud of you. And so now about this SRE thing, right? And our mentor says, we're definitely need more beers for that, right? But that is a story for another time, right? So the end. If you want to talk more about these ideas, we love talking about it. You can hit me on Twitter or just tweet at Rundeck. We've got a table back there. We've got some of our folks there who'd love to talk about these things. Self-service matters to us because it's about making life better for the long-toiling, long-suffering, unsung heroes of enterprises IT operations. So. Yes, exactly. The unsung. Make the unsung heroes the sung heroes.
Fantastic. Thank you, Damon. Everyone thank Damon.
Thank you.
Is this thing on?
So we have time for a couple of questions from the audience. I'm just going to ask one question, because I get automation is my life. I love this stuff. But I've heard from many people, they think, well, automation means I'm going to lose my job. Tell me a little bit about why that's not a thing, because I know it's not.
It's never happened yet. I mean, yes, the idea of, it's kind of funny, right? Because it's sort of like the idea of embracing failure scares people. They're like, whoa, failure, we shouldn't do that. It's tell people, automate yourself out of a job. People are like, oh, I don't want to do that. I mean, the reality is companies need more human capital. They need more brain power doing important things. So the idea is, automate away the things that the computers should be doing. Like you talked about, like computers are great at spotting anomaly checks, right? Computers are great at doing certain things. So use those to elevate the human. Kind of like in an airplane, there's still a pilot there, right? In an operating room, there's a lot of technology now, but there's still a surgeon, right? Nuclear power plants, there's a lot of technology, but there's still human operators. In high complex, high risk scenarios, you need human beings in the process. And the idea of technology should be to make their life better. So I would look at automation from that regard, is how do I use the automation to create automation that makes the op teams more valuable so they can go on and do other things that add value to the company.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you. So, any questions from the audience for Damon? I can't believe it. Did you all not have enough coffee at the break? I must be. It ran out. I made some more.
This is more general to everybody. Will we be having access to all the slides from today's presentations to share with our colleagues? Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. NewOpsDays.org, at some point, we'll have all of the presentations, the ones we're allowed to put up. Another question? Did I see a question?
I thought there was one.
Beulah?
Oh, right here.
Beulah?
So the concept of the self-service stuff is really solid. And I've seen in a lot of the kind of big tech companies a lot of that sort of self-service thing happening. I'm wondering what you see is mechanisms that work well for sort of bringing together maybe tools that are similar or approaches that are similar into more of a unified way. Is that a role of a central team? Is there something built into that feedback loop that you're talking through right now that sort of encourages things to come together and become more central?
I think the most successful organizations we see are the ones that kind of take more of a lean philosophy, which is focus on the toolchain integration and then let teams make the choices that they want to make, and then look for commonality to standardize later. I think, and when there is a central team, the point of the central team is to coach the other teams on how to make the right choices and how to fit into the tool chain, versus the team that says, I got your monitoring tool, I've got your automation tool, there'll be classes on these days, you must become experts in these things. Those things, I mean, we've tried that a lot in the past, and then we just have what we have now, which is we've got this Ansible project over there, and then that same crack team was working on the Chef project over there, and then 2 years ago they were working on the Puppet project, and then CF Engine, Blade Logic, blah, blah, and now we've got all of it, right? And so instead of having those kind of try to make a whole sea change and switch everything, embrace that and focus on the higher level tool chain integration issues and the workflow and tying things together and the SDLCs around them, and then let the teams do what they need to do, and then look for commonality later to say, we've spotted the commonality, we've produced this common tool chain, it's free to use, it already is here, would you like to use it? If they say no, you built the wrong thing. If they say yes, then you encourage that. I think that later standardization is the path to success. I don't see a lot of companies, it's a lot of fits and starts with the command and control way to do it.
Any other questions? I have one more question. How do I find time to automate when I don't have enough time to automate?
Yeah, I mean, that is really the idea of letting people use the skills they already have. So focus on the self-service, right? Letting people use the tools that they have. If everyone can write a shell script in your organization, then use Bash, right? If it's all Python shop, use Python. Don't try to tell people to learn a new DSL, and embrace those, and then have them focus on, not on building a big platform, but on those individual spotting and stamping out those anti-patterns, right? So little quick wins, those really add up in the organization, is the way generally I'd say to do it. And focus on that, because when you're focusing on fighting toil, then you're going to create more time for yourself, right? If you focus on building a big, beautiful architected platform, you're not reducing toil, and you're probably going to lose that time in, what you did. Yeah.
Great. Any other questions? Last chance. Okay. So let's all thank Damon for a great session.
Thank you.
And Damon, I'm going to ask you to stay on stage and just introduce us to the idea of these lightning talks. What's this all about?
So these are fun. So there's going to be 5 talks. We got Josh over here. Fred, you're here. Fred's here. Awesome. Paul is here. Dave, where are you, Dave? Why don't you guys come over here, by the way? And so it's Josh, Fred, Dave, Paul, and Corey, right? So you guys come up and line up here in that order. And these are pretty cool because they're actual high wire acts. So they each have 5 minutes. There was 20 slides. If you notice, they will have no clicker. These slides each auto advance after 15 seconds. So if they screw up, they're just in trouble. It's just going to all go terrible, and we can laugh at them. But if we're not laughing at them, we'll learn something from them. So this should be fun. So that sounds fair. It's fair. It's good. It's good times.
All right. Okay.